Livonia City Council. This is a voting meeting. Minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting scheduled to be held on Monday, June 8th, 2020. And I would like to let everyone know that that meeting will also be held via Zoom. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Jolly,
Present.
Councilmember Toy,
Here.
Vice President Barr,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember McCullough,
Here.
Councilmember Donovic,
Here.
President McIntyre.
Here. So we have all members of council with us this evening. At this time, I'd like to ask for the presentation of the minutes. These are the minutes from the 1,890 regular meeting of the City Council that was held on May 11th. Council?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Jim?
Yes, ma'am.
Second? All right. Motion to approve by Toy, support from Councilmember Jolly. Madam Clerk, would you please go ahead and take the vote on the approval of the minutes?
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye. And with that, the minutes of the regular council meeting from the 11th, 2020 are approved. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'd like to go to the council. If anyone has any announcements, tributes, or recognition they'd like to offer. I see Councilmember Toy.
Thank you, Madam President. It's with great sadness that I announce that for those of you that went to the University of Michigan, Dr. Bernie Klein succumbed to the virus on Sunday and passed away. He was Mayor Kavanaugh's in the Detroit days comptroller and did a superior job, had a quick wit, a very intelligent man with a quick mind as well, and very, very well respected. He was chancellor over at University of Michigan, Dearborn 3 different times in the interim of them picking chancellors. Bernie was just one of a kind and just an outstanding human being. I remember telling him one time, a real liberal is someone that owns not only a dog, but a cat too. And he got a real kick out of that. And so that was many years ago, by the way. But anyhow, I just wanted to honor him tonight and say something special because any of you that knew him or knew of him, many, many people, he was very well respected in the state and he'll be very, very missed. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, and our condolences to his family and his friends. I see that Vice President Barr.
Yeah, I need to take this opportunity to finish out my big month of May and wish a very happy 18-year anniversary to my wife. We celebrated that yesterday, COVID style, with Red Robin takeouts for lunch and Panera for dinner. So that's the way it goes these days. Take the Panera and go sit in a park. But very, very thankful for to have her in my life, and looking forward to many more years with her.
Thank you. Happy anniversary, Vice President Barr. Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple things. I've got, it's backwards, but I've got my Livonia Census sign. Livonia is rocking right now. I think we're in first place with a population over 50,000, and we want to keep it up. So you could, if you haven't submitted your census, you could go to my2020census.gov. my2020census.gov and make sure, fill out the information so Livonia can get its funding. And then the second thing is my wife, who's obviously a teacher at Livonia Franklin, alerted me to give a shout out to the class of 2020. This Saturday, they will be picking up their diplomas in this new world we live in. So if you see something Saturday, drive by the high schools, maybe give a honk and some thumbs up. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Councilmember McCullough. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to wish my oldest daughter, Lexi, a happy 9th birthday coming up. She's sitting right off camera here, but she's moving further away as I speak because she's afraid I'm going to pull her on camera. We're proud of you and we love you, Lexi.
Happy birthday.
I'm on.
Happy birthday, Lexi. It's been a lot of fun, Jim, watching your kids grow up.
Thank you.
Councilmember White.
I just want to give a shout out to Rosedale Presbyterian Church. They did a very moving veterans. They honored the veterans, but it was a Memorial Day celebration and in honor of all those who have passed away, all our military veterans. And they had a wonderful bagpiper, and it was just all socially distanced. Most of the attendees were across the street at Meese Park, but it was a very nice way to honor our veterans. Our mayor read off the names of anybody who put a name in their box to be as a family member of a friend that they wanted honored, and so she went through all the names. They rang a bell after announcing each name, and it was just very moving. So good work, Rosedale Presbyterian Church, and everybody else who participated. We had members of the fire department and the police department there. They had 22 crosses representing the fact that every day in the United States, 22 veterans take their own lives. And they had one additional cross representing the fact that every day in the U.S., one first responder takes his or her own life. So good thing to think about, and hope that we can do more for folks in the military. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember White. It was indeed a beautiful and a very moving ceremony, and nice to have the mayor there reading names. Nice to see you there as well. And Councilmember McCullough as well. I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody who's there. Anybody else? All right, I would like to, I just have quick ones. First of all, once again, very nice to have our legislative director, Judy Prevey, back with us. She's back into the office. She's with us on the meeting tonight via Zoom, but it's great to have you back, Judy. We've missed you a lot. Sarah's done a fantastic job, but we've missed you, and we miss seeing both you and Sarah. The other thing I'd like to do, I'm sorry, Judy, did you?
I just said thank you.
Okay, welcome back. I'd like to ask that we all keep a good thought and a prayer for our Assistant City Attorney, Eric Goldstein, who is going chemotherapy and radiation for a brain tumor. And Eric has been very open about this. He posts on Facebook about it, his challenges, his frustrations, but as true to form, Eric is, he's amazing when he's not going through something like this. He's even more amazing now as he goes through this journey. He loves to get texts and cards and notes and emails. He has some difficulty reading, but if you think of it, Eric, take a moment to reach out to him. And on a happier note, as someone that does not like a big deal made out of anything, our police chief is celebrating a birthday this week. And I will leave it at that. So if you see our police chief, wish him a happy birthday. And if that's the end of our tributes and recognition, I would like to take this opportunity to announce that there will be 2 X items at the end of tonight's meeting, and that we have new data on item number 9, which I will refer to in more detail when we get to item number 9. And with that, I am going to do my best, although it's always hard through Zoom, to introduce the department heads we have with us this evening. I'm not going to do it in any particular order other than how they come up on my Zoom screen. We have, as I mentioned, Judy Prevey, our legislative director, our director of planning and economic development, Mark Taramina, and I've mentioned in previous meetings, Mark has also been heading up the donation site at the Perksey Recreation Center, has been playing a big role in Together Livonia Cares, is working on the Safe Start reopening, working with our business community, just doing a lot. Paul Bernier, our city attorney, has also been kept very, very busy these days. Susan Nash, our city clerk, is with us. She's extremely busy as she and her staff try to figure out how this August 4th primary is going to go. We have Mr. Todd Zelinsik, our city engineer, with us, and the engineering department never sleeps because the city never sleeps. And even when everyone is at home, or most people are at home with COVID, water mains still break and roads still need to get repaired and sidewalks still crack and people call about things they're unhappy with. So great job, Todd. We also see, I see on the phone, we've got Brian Kahn, our phenomenal director of emergency management. Can't even begin to think where the city would be without having Brian and his expertise, his knowledge, and his incredibly calm demeanor. Dave Varga, our director of administrative services, who is hopping all the time. The work in the mayor's office never ends. We have Jacob Rushlow from the DPW with us. And I also see that we are honored once again with the presence via Zoom of our former mayor, Jack Engelbrecht. So that's I think, if council, please let me know if you see anyone, if I've missed anyone. I think I got all of our department heads. I hope I did, but thank you to all of you for joining us in your outstanding work every day, but especially through this very difficult time. At this time, I go to announcements. I already made my announcements about the X items and the new data for item number 9. At this time, we go to the audience. If any members of the audience would like to communicate with the council on any matter not on this evening's agenda, now is an opportunity to do so. And I see that, okay, I will begin with Mr. David.
Madam President, you might want to just
Yes.
explain quickly for people how to do that.
Oh, thank you, Vice President Barr. If you are, and I did see 2 hands up. Now I just see 1. If you would like to communicate with the council, if you go over to the right-hand side of your screen, you should see yourself and you have the ability to raise your hand. You're virtually, or to raise your virtual hand, and I see it, and then that's how I recognize members of the audience. So thank you very much, Vice President Barr, for that reminder. I will begin with the first hand I saw up, which is Mr. David Steckholtz. Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. And let's see, I need to unmute you. Let's try that again. Keep hitting it. Casey, can you help me out, please? I'm hitting unmute and I'm not unmuting Mr. Steckholtz. There we go. Good evening. Oh, it looks like he's muted again. David, I apologize for this. I'm hitting the correct buttons. Try, David, try unmuting yourself. See if that works. All right, it looks like Mr. Steckholtz is now. Good evening, David.
Kathleen, it's good to see you. And am I being heard by all of you?
You are being heard by all of us and all the other participants in this evening's meeting. So all the normal people that always come from the city, and then all the people who are joining us from the city.
Well, indeed, it is an honor to join all of you this evening. I know several of you quite well, and I'd like to first just say what a wonderful city of Livonia we live in. I'm still a newbie. My family and I have only been here 14 years, but between our esteemed mayor and our esteemed members of the city council, all of you dear folks, and the city staff, we are truly blessed. And I thank the Lord that you do such a fantastic job for our city. Your dedication is unparalleled. So thank you very much. Saturday, I was at Rotary Park. I'm a immediate past president of the Livonia Rotary Club, as well as a member of the Livonia Civic Chorus with my wife and son. And it was Saturday morning. The wife wanted me out of the house naturally because Janet likes to do house cleaning without any of the men around. I get it. So off to Rotary Park. And I was doing my Bible study. I'm a retired Lutheran bishop. I was doing Bible study and I was doing some other reading, and I just happened to observe that the tennis courts were totally filled. Now, during this coronavirus pandemic, one totally understands that. There's safe social distancing there. But I felt so bad because all the tennis courts were in use by adults. However, the playground equipment for the children couldn't be used. And I get it. I understand that there's got to be social distancing. I realize that families and children can be a little bit more challenging, but I just felt so bad about that. And I'd like to keep this totally non-political and just focus in on the fact that we've got this great playground equipment. Isn't there some way that parental responsibility or a group like MOPS or some other group could take charge of that, and that people could sign in so that they would sign a statement not to hold the city liable in any way, shape, or form? That may not be possible, but I'm just coming to you from my heart. That just feels so bad for all the hard work we put in to make that playground, that universal playscape, and now the children can't use it. Isn't there some way that we could figure out some creative way that on a limited basis and sanitizing in between shifts, we could open it up to families with the children? That's all I've got to say. Thank you for whatever you say.
I know Mr. Jelly wants to speak, but David, I would like to say, and you kind of stated the things I was going to thank you for and recognize you for. You have been of such incredible service to our community. As a former member of faith community, you mentioned your role as a Lutheran bishop. I don't think you ever really probably retire from that job. As a member, you and your family, your wife and your son as members of the Civic Chorus, which has provided so much wonderful entertainment to the city. Really missed the spring concert this year. Your work as the past president of the Rotary, continuing on the Rotary Club and the Livonia Chamber. So thank you. And I really appreciate your taking the time to call in. And I'm going to cede the floor to Mr. Jolly, but I will say this topic came up, the whole topic of outdoor recreation in the mayor's weekly leadership team meeting this morning. And I know that I'm personally hopeful that the data that is starting to become evident through organizations like the CDC, the data that shows that coronavirus does not fare well in sunlight, high temperatures, high humidity, that we'll start to see that information also trickle through public policy. But I'm going to go to Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you as well, Bishop. Your thoughts and sentiments are well received and well shared here. I can speak on behalf of myself and my family with 3 little ones that the children understand the circumstances that are preventing them from doing this kind of stuff at the moment. And they're resilient and they're finding other ways to keep themselves occupied. Hopefully in the near future, they will be able to utilize the play structure at Rotary and all the other parks in Livonia. But I do appreciate the sentiment as a father and somebody who's driving past these play structures. The kids do understand them. And it's probably only for the short term here, hopefully. But thank you.
Vice President Barr.
Yeah, I'll just, Mr. Seklos, thanks for being here. And I'm just going to take this opportunity to share publicly with council. I've actually already in a previous conversation mentioned this to Mr. Steckles, so he's aware of it. And I presented this to the mayor's office yesterday as well, that I've asked them if we could see a list of the actions Livonia has taken, if there are any. I honestly don't know if there are, but if there are any actions that we have taken over and above what is required by the state orders, I'd like to know what that list is, just so as the city continues to move forward, we know what our wiggle room is, so to speak, as far as what we should be doing with precautions with this. Regardless about my personal opinions about some of the actions out of Lansing, I do think the city's doing the right thing to abide by the governor's orders. But if there's anything that we've gone beyond that, I think it's worthy of discussion, particularly as we learn more about this virus and how it spreads. And I suspect, I just on the record don't know this for sure, but I suspect playground equipment is one of the things that would fall into that list. And I don't question the intent with why those decisions were originally made. I think they were all made in good faith. And I actually think they were the right decisions based on what we knew at the time. But I think as we learn more about this, some of those things are worthy to discuss. And Mr. Steckholz's point is well taken, that it is odd to see so much activity in so many areas of our cities, including our parks, and then to see those roped off when I think it's questionable at this point whether that's actually helping us. So that doesn't accomplish anything here, but I just wanted to publicly state that the mayor's office is aware of my request, and hopefully we'll see that list soon.
Thank you, Vice President Barr. I see that Councilmember Kathy White would like to address this comment. Kathy?
Thank you. As a tennis player, I know that Mr. Steckholz is absolutely correct, and that the tennis courts, I've never seen them so busy. They are being utilized in a way that I think they haven't been in years and years. But I never really thought about, the fairness of that versus the kids that want some outdoor activity. So I'm just wondering, I think what we've done is appropriate in terms of, putting the yellow tape around the playground equipment. But I just wonder if perhaps we could ask Mr. Davis if he is aware of any other community that has, I don't know, come up with a creative solution to this. We don't always have to start from square one. Usually there are other minds that have been put to similar issues when it comes to municipal affairs. So if we could get a very brief report from Mr. Davis about this, I think that would be great. It's sort of along the lines of what Councilmember Barr is looking for, that, so we're aware of everything that's been done, and so that when residents come to us and ask us why, we have a knowledgeable and intelligent answer. But I do think it would be helpful to just find out if he's aware of any other creative solutions to this issue. And I thank Mr. Steckholz for bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember White, today in the mayor's leadership meeting, there was some discussion of this and the spectrum of outdoor recreation. And I did ask Mr. Davis if at the next meeting or, via an email, if he will update council on where we're going with the outdoor recreation rules and policies, because there is new data that I think is starting to inform these decisions. And I've indicated to him we're getting a lot of questions, and I promise you Mr. Steckholz was not a plant tonight, but I've indicated to Ted that we're getting a lot of these questions, and he's agreed to give us.
Yeah,
I think part of it is they're still waiting to hear from the county. Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember White. And I'm sorry, Councilmember McCullough. Councilmember White, did you have anything else to say? I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's it. And as far as asking for input from Mr. Davis, I realize he's a very busy individual these days, so I'm not looking for anything lengthy, but I think it would behoove us to hear from him on this subject. So thank you.
Absolutely.
That's it.
All right, Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you. Bishop, thank you, and fellow Rotarian. It's a great idea. As a parent, my little one's 5, and it's tough, coming from my personal experience. You want to be able to use the play equipment, but in these times, it's tough, at least right now, until things start calming. This is my personal opinion. But on top of that, I could tell you this, as someone that pretty much hangs out at Rotary anytime we can, people are adapting to other things. The trails are massive use. There's a group called Livonia Rocks, and people paint rocks, they put them around, And there's a whole, it's almost like a little, lost and found type thing where you post everything on. I was just in the trails this morning with my daughter. It's booming. The pathway, people are out walking. So, while it is unfortunate that the play equipment, there will come a day we will get past this, and that play equipment will be totally in use as it was before. But I could tell you, at least like I said, from my experience, that place is booming. Every other inch of that park is being used. So that is a good testament to Rotary itself. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilmember McCullough. Let me see, I think that Councilmember Toy.
Just real quick, as you read and study and the ever-changing craziness of this whole virus, a lot of warnings about surfaces, particularly metal surfaces, plastic surfaces, cardboard surfaces. And until they know enough, as some of my colleagues have said, I think we did the right thing in this non-structured kind of play, because the last thing we need is residents having issues, with the kind of apparatuses we provide in the city. And we certainly, David, want to thank you for all the hard work and dollars and time you all spent in the Rotary Park. But I also think it's a question of safety right now. I don't mean to sound paranoid or overprotective, but any age group can get this thing, and we want to be very, very cautious on how we're handling it, because we're responsible for some, tons of residents of all age groups. So thank you for coming in tonight, and I think Kathy White's suggestion is a good one. We need these reports, we need these updates, because residents are calling. They're wondering what's going on, and our president attends these leadership meetings and does a superior job in informing us. But there's questions that do come up in the meantime that aren't always addressed there. So thank you very much. And this council, I think, needs to be well informed on what's going on, because people look to you for answers like David is tonight for us. So thank you for bringing this up. Thank you very much, Madam President. You're on mute, Madam President.
Sorry, thank you. I see that someone else in the audience would like to address the council. But before I go to that individual, I'd like to recognize Mr. Varga, our Director of Administrative Services, who I am guessing probably has something to say to help us be better informed on this issue. Dave?
Sure. I just wanted to let you know that obviously Mr. Davis is constantly checking information from other communities, where we are in terms of dog parks and playgrounds and all of that information. So we can certainly put together a report as to answer Council Vice President Barr's question about what has been closed that goes beyond the executive orders. That may take a little time. Obviously, it's a constantly moving target, though, just in terms of what the current situation is. I will note that Councilman Jolly has been up there playing tennis with his kids, so avoiding the playground. So appreciate that.
All right. Anyone else on this issue? Seeing none, I'll continue with audience communications. We have a member from the audience who I only see identified as IdeaPad Z580. So if that participant would like to address the council, please, good evening, and please do so.
Hi, can you hear me?
You sure can.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. I'm a little nervous here. I've never really gotten politically involved, but I'm coming to you in humility tonight to ask for some guidance. I've got you beat, Mr. Stakehold. I'm a newbie of only 1 year. I live in the neighborhood that is, it is east of Middle Belt and south of 8 Mile at Moorlock and Parkville is the cross street I live on. Want to just bring to light and ask for guidance about some traffic issues I have. There's like a lot of speeding on my street here. It seems that people use this as a thoroughfare to avoid 8 Mile and Middle Belt. The speeding, I don't have a radar gun, but I would have to say that it is in excess of 50 miles per hour sometimes. I talked to the police a few times and they sent cruisers, but only momentarily, and then they left. I've been told that this issue has been a problem in my neighborhood for several years without any kind of alleviation. So specifically, my question to you, is it possible that we could have a stop sign or some speed humps installed? Is it legal also for me as a citizen and resident and homeowner to place a decoy surveillance camera? I own the property at the street corner of the main problem. Let's see. So those are my two ideas. And also, if I'm off the mark and if there's a different department or meeting that I would have more effectiveness with in this, please feel free to share that with me.
All right, and if you'd like to, you're under no obligation to do so, but you could share your name and address with us if you'd like to. You don't have to.
I would love to. It's Nicole.
Okay.
Yeah, my first name is Nicole.
Okay.
Last name is Cardella, Cardella.
Okay.
Thank you. The address is 20339 Parkville.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Cardella, you did great. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. We're always happy to have citizens join us at meetings to share their concerns, and this is the absolutely appropriate forum to do it. One of the many forums where you can do that, but this is the one where you have the opportunity to address all the council and a number of members of the staff, and often Mr. Varga, the Director of Administrative Services, who works in the mayor's office, is here. He hears these things as well. Regarding things like speed bumps and stop signs, there's a Michigan uniform traffic code that Livonia follows, and it's directives from the state to municipalities as to signage and other speeding and traffic signaling and deterrence, and it's all based on extensive data that indicates what's the safest. That doesn't mean that speeding is not a problem in your neighborhood. You asked about the legality of your having a camera on your property. That is really a question that you need to take to an attorney. The city is generally not in a position to answer questions to homeowners about what is legal and not legal for them to do on their property. And I do see we have someone from the council that wants to speak, and I'll acknowledge them in just a minute. The other thing that I would like to say is Mr. Varga is with us in the meeting tonight, and I will ask him to, as he's very good at doing, listen to the issues and then follow up as appropriate with the departments. In this case, it would be the police department, and it's great that you've already reached out to them. Mr. Varga, I'm sure the mayor's office and the mayor and find out what other sorts of follow-up is appropriate. And with that, I see that Mr. Jolly, Councilmember Jolly, would like to address your comments. Ms. Cardella.
Thank you, Madam President. Ma'am, to be honest with you, there are many things we deal with on City Council. This is not particularly one of them. The City of Livonia does have a traffic commission that does deal specifically with the items that you have mentioned, and they do have some leeway to recommend additional signage, and quite possibly working with the police department. They kind of work together in many ways, possibly a higher routine of officers patrolling the area and stuff like that as well. So I would offer on your behalf a formal referral to the Traffic Commission in regards to the items that you've stated. And thank you very much for contacting us, and welcome to Livonia. That's it.
Sorry, I was muted again. That's an excellent suggestion from Councilmember Jolly, Ms. Cardella. is run this through, and we will do that, make a request to the transfer. Anything else? Ms. Cardella, before I continue on with audience communication?
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, no, thank you, Mr. Jolly. I'm already in touch with the Traffic Commission.
All right. All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you we're very glad you are making Livonia home and took the time to join us tonight and share your concerns. All right, with that, we will move on to Jason Glotzner. Mr. Glotzner, good evening.
Hi, actually, this is his girlfriend, Tammy. I'm just using his phone.
Okay, I apologize. The only way I can.
Yeah, it's no problem at all. Actually, I'm a neighbor of Nicole's. I live across the street, and I just wanted to touch base on that. I've been with the Traffic Commission about the speeding problem. We actually, 5.5 years ago, we had some kids hit our house at 60 miles an hour. They totaled my truck and did $30,000-$40,000 in damage to my home. So the speeding issue is much bigger than, I don't even know. I can't even tell you how many times we've called the police. We've gone to the police station. We've asked for a no left turn sign out of the parking lot at the skilled nursing facility at the end of the street. It's a lot of their employees. If you sat in our house, I invite any of the council members to come to my house at like 6:45 in the morning till about 7:30. They're the employees trying to get to work before 7, and their employees getting off work at 7. They throw their trash out the windows in front of our house, and we all do a really good job of keeping our yards beautiful. And to have their employees disrespecting us is ridiculous. We respect them, we honor them for all the work they've done, and they pay us back by throwing their trash out. And now, as you said, I think it was Jolly said, all the people walking, we've never had this many people walking and kids outside playing, and you have cars going down our street, you know, anywhere from 40 to 60 miles an hour. They're doing burnouts in front of our house. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then if you say anything to them, then you're opening yourself up to all kinds of repercussions and everything. Again, like I went to the city or the traffic commission, I think it was 2 years ago, they put a radar sign up. And as we all know, we see those radar signs and everybody slows down for them. But as soon as that radar sign's gone, everybody just goes back to their normal speeds. And I realize this isn't your handling, it's the traffic commission, but we're just trying to make it aware to everybody, you know, our frustrations.
And we're delighted that you took this. This is why we have audience communications. So people that have an issue, even if it's not within the purview of council to address it or fix it, have an opportunity to be heard by, you know, essentially all the elected officials, all the city council members. So thank you. And if you'd like to, again, you don't need to, you're welcome to share you gave us your first name. You're welcome to share your last name and your address. You do not have to if you do not want to.
Oh, sure. It's Tammy. Last name is Earl, E-A-R-L.
Okay.
Address is 28980 Morlock, M-O-R-L-O-C-K, 48152.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening and share your concerns with us. It's appreciated, and that they will not go without investigation.
Thank you, Council. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And with that, I do not see anyone else from the audience that wishes to speak to us this evening. And I don't see anyone from council that wishes to address our last comments. Sorry. All right. We're done with that. At this time, I don't see that we have any reports from the mayor or other city officials. I'll give the city officials who are with us an opportunity momentarily to raise their hands. No one is. So with that, we'll move ahead with the rest of our agenda. Items 1 through 8 are listed on the consent agenda, and they will be voted on as one item. It does not mean that they are any less important than any of the other items on the agenda, but rather that in our study meeting of May 11th, they were determined to be non-controversial in nature. Council,
Madam President,
Yes, Vice President Barr.
I'll move approval on the consent agenda.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Donovic. We'll go to the audience. If anyone in the audience would like to address anything, or if anyone would like to address, I'm getting myself confused. We don't address the consent agenda. We ask beforehand if anybody wants to take anything off. No one did. So with that, we'll go ahead, please, Madam Clerk, and take the vote.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
And the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we move on to unfinished business, beginning with item number 9. This is an award of contract that came to us from the Public Service Division for sewer line chemical root control services from budgeted funds. I did indicate that we have new data on this item, and I'd like to respectfully suggest that a communication from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, known as the EPA, by Catherine Montague, Product Manager 23 Herbicide Grant, Registration and Office of Pesticide Programs, to Karen Orpentian, Sewer Sciences, dated July 3rd, 2014, with this item be received and placed on file for the benefit of the council. All right.
Madam President.
I would ask council.
I'd like to offer an approving resolution, Madam President.
Thank you. Support from, is that Councilmember Toy?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Jolly, did you want to comment on this issue?
So I'll just say that I was the individual council member who asked for this to be put on the regular agenda. I appreciate the opportunity to research the matter further. Anytime we're talking about anything to do with chemicals of this nature used in our community, I think I, for one, would like to do my due diligence a little bit more. I think the information provided by DPW is helpful and shows that this is something we've done in the past, and that if we continue to do it is keeping status quo. So I have no problem in supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jolly. Anyone else from the council like to comment on this? I will go to the audience. Would anyone in the audience like to comment on this issue that's before the city council? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and take the vote, and it's an approving resolution to execute a 4-year contract with an option for a 1-year extension between the city and Duke's Root Control. And the contract would be for the period of May 1st, 2020 through April 30th, 2024, and the annual amount would not exceed $60,000. And we can go ahead, Madam Clerk, and take the vote, please.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the resolution passes, and the contract will be awarded as indicated. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on with unfinished business to item number 10. This is a request to amend Council Resolution 412-19 and authorization to purchase furniture. This came to us from the Public Services Division, and this was this would reduce the GMP payable to DeMaria Building Company to $9,032,452 in order to purchase furniture for the DPW building project in an amount not to exceed $207,000 from budgeted funds. And if the council recalls, we were moving funds away from what had been allocated to the project manager, DeMaria, who was originally charged with purchasing the office furniture. And then the folks in charge of the project recognize that if we purchase the office furniture directly ourselves from the manufacturer or the vendor, we would have a significant savings in terms of tax and service charges. And so that's why this came to us. And it was last meeting, it was, we considered it in the study, and it was asked that it be put on the regular agenda. Do we have,
Madam President,
yes,
I'd like to offer an approving resolution.
Okay.
Was the, put this on regular.
before we have any discussion,
Support.
support from Councilmember White, so we do have a motion on the floor. Councilman McCullough.
My main concern, not that, taking this out of DeMaria's hands was a bad thing. I just wanted to ensure that DPW did include the new COVID office world that is the new deal into the furniture plan. And I did speak with administration last week, and they did confirm that the measures were included into this plan. So I just wanted to make sure that they had their ducks in a row before they ordered this stuff. So.
All right, thank you, Councilmember McCullough. Anyone else from the council like to comment on this? Would anyone from the audience like to comment on this item before the council?
I don't know what the hell is going on.
Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the motion carries, and we will proceed with the purchase of the furniture as indicated. Thank you very much, and at this time, I would like to ask for a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Support.
Report from Vice President Barr. We will continue on, as I indicated. We have two X items this evening. The first is a request to schedule a closed committee of the whole. This comes just from the Department of Law for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and attorney-client privilege communications with respect to the estate of Rita Hughes et al. In the city versus City of Livonia.
Madam President, we have to vote on the suspension of the
Move
rules.
approval.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I jumped the gun here. Sorry. The rules are suspended with this. We can now move to the first X item, and I will read it again. And
We've got to have a
Madam
vote.
President, we have to vote on suspending the rules.
okay. I'm sorry. Let's have Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on suspending the rules? I got ahead of myself and then didn't recalibrate.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye. So we have successfully, the motion to suspend the rules has passed. Now we will go on to the first X item. I will read it again because of the confusion that I caused. Item X1, this is a request to schedule a closed committee of the whole. This comes to us from the Department of Law for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and attorney-client privilege communications with respect to the estate of Rita Hughes et al. Versus the City of Livonia. And I will remind the council that this requires a two-thirds vote if it's to be approved. Councilmember White.
So moved. Move approval.
Second.
Councilmember Jolly. Now, Madam Clerk, would you take the vote on this first X item?
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye, and the motion carries. So the Law Department will be working with the council office to do a closed committee of the whole. Thank you. With that, we move on to item X2. This is a request to approve a joint declaration and resolution permitting temporary outdoor dining areas for the COVID-19 emergency. This comes to us from myself, City Council President, and Mayor Maureen Miller Brosnan, to allow for the approval of temporary outdoor dining areas in connection with existing full and limited service restaurants in the city of Livonia. And I would like to just, let's, wait, yes,
I'll move approval.
Support.
support from Councilmember Donovan. And I'm going to cede the floor to Mr. Terramina in a minute, but I wanted to mention why this is an X item. Generally, items like this that have to do with changing ordinances do not come to us as an X item, which an X item, and I think most people know it for members of our audience who may not, an X item is an item that is received by the council office after the deadline for a meeting or regular agenda that the deadline has been missed. And if the council deems that that is an item that is urgent nature, that whoever is submitting it did not have a way of anticipating that it needed quick action, then the council has the option of placing it on the X agenda. Actually, I have the option of placing it on the X agenda. And then as you just heard, we need to move to suspend the rules to go to X items, and then we take up the X item. Mark, Terramina, I think you're still with us.
I am.
May I ask you to explain this to the council and just give us a little bit of the background? And
Yeah, I'm going to let Paul provide some opening remarks regarding this. And then if you have any questions regarding any of the standards that are part of the resolution, I'd be happy to respond to those questions.
All right, Mr. Bernier, and again, I'd like to thank Mr. Bernier and Mr. Terramina, members of the mayor's staff who put this resolution together very, very quickly for council's benefit and got it to everyone as quickly as they could.
Good evening. Sorry I wasn't on right away, but I was having computer problems up in the office. And thank you, Casey, for getting it all taken care of. The reason this resolution, this joint resolution and declaration from the mayor and council came about because, as we know, with the COVID-19 pandemic going on, a lot of local small businesses in particular have been greatly damaged and hurt because of the lack of restaurants in particular are very slow to open and haven't reopened yet. The only thing they're open for still is carry-out business. There is, we have been approached by members of council and by small restaurants and large restaurants wanting, when they're able to actually open up and have and serve customers, be able to expand during the summer months while it's still warm in order to try to recoup a little bit of their lost income that they've suffered so much over the period of time. We came up with a plan that we believe is very workable. This will only be contingent upon the governor allowing the restaurants to open up. So if until the restaurants open up, according to the executive orders, this does not apply. So once they open up, this provision would apply. And what it does is it allows our restaurants to have outdoor seating where they may not have otherwise have the outdoor seating. The outdoor seating will be limited. It's not going to be great. If the governor's orders are consistent with what she did up north, it allows for 50% seating capacity within the restaurant itself. A lot of our restaurants have told us that they would still have a hard time making a go of it with only a 50% capacity in a short period of time. So we were trying to come up with a plan that allowed for them to increase their revenues and increase their seating capacity, and at the same time not create a huge parking problem or a noise problem. So the solution that came up between all of us was that we would allow for a temporary period of time to allow outdoor seating of up to 50% of what the governor's order allows. So for instance, if the restaurant had a seating capacity of 100 people and the governor said we can only seat 50%, that would allow 50 people inside. Our order resolution would allow for an additional 50% of that amount seated outside. So another 25%. So in other words, you'd be up to a 75% potential of your occupancy of the restaurant, 50% inside, 25% outside. This would have to go to the planning commission with a plan in place, because we want to take a look at the parking. We want to make sure that it's safe to do so. We want to make sure that if there is any alcohol involved, which we don't expect a lot of them, but some of them will, that it's fenced off accordingly. There are rules in effect dealing with noise. It would be limited until 10 p.m. because we obviously don't want to have the noise. Between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m., you couldn't have the outdoor seating. This is limited in time until October 31st to be consistent with what the MLCC is planning on doing with licensings. We have specifically put in the resolution, this does not create any right in any of these restaurants that choose to do this, that they can continue beyond that date. If they want to have outdoor seating beyond this date, they have to go through the regular, normal waiver process and actually be able to, we can look at it intelligently. This is not going to grandfather them in. If they want to continue beyond that, they're going to have to go through the regular process. This is a short-term fix, if you will, so that the restaurants can try to recoup a little bit of the money that they've lost. Some of the other considerations we have in the plan, and my Mark can deal with it also, is there's to be no outdoor music playing, no TVs playing, but the noise ordinances still apply. Any food or alcohol has to be consumed within the area designated by the inspection department as part of the plan. So again, it's a short-term plan to try to help the local small businesses and restaurants.
Thank you. And just a question, and we have other members of council who'd like to probably ask you questions. Is the October 31st our Livonia's timetable or the state's?
Well, we wanted to mimic the state.
Okay.
Because the state is going to do October 31st.
Okay.
Any date we picked, quite frankly, was going to be arbitrary. And my original thought was end of September. But then when it was pointed out to us that in fact the state is going to go to the end of October, it didn't make any sense to do anything other than match what they had. So we changed ours from the end of September to the end of October.
Okay. All right. And again, before I go to council, I'd like to go to Mr. Termina. Mark?
Just one correction to something that Paul said, and that is the Planning Commission will not be the review authority. In these cases. This would be an administrative process. Plans would have to be submitted to the inspection department. Planning as well as public safety would be involved in the review of those plans. And any fees associated with those permits would have to be or would be applied.
I apologize because I did say that it is not the Planning Commission. It is going to the inspection department on an expedited permitting process because obviously this is going to be a quick moving thing. The reason we're doing it now before we get the executive order is we want to have the restaurants be able to kind of make their plans accordingly and get to our permitting process. And also they may have to buy or rent tents and tables for their outdoor use. So we wanted to give them a little bit of a heads up that this may be coming.
And just one other thing I'd like to point out is the October 31st date corresponds to the date that was specified, I believe, through an order or temporary order by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission to allow the outdoor service permits in connection with any liquor licenses. So it matches that, but this does not enable any restaurant that does not currently have a liquor license to obtain one expeditiously. They would have to have a license in place, a Class C license, in order to serve alcohol within an outdoor dining area. Those restaurants that do not currently have a Class C license, while they could still have an outdoor dining area, which is precisely what this addresses, they will not be allowed to serve alcohol.
Thank you. And just one more thing before I get to the other members of council. The process begins for a restaurant that does serve liquor. It begins on the LARA website, correct, at the state, the licensing and regulatory affairs website, right, to get the...
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Council Member White.
Yes. First of all, Mark addressed one of my concerns, which was to clarify that this does not go to the planning commission, it goes to the planning department and the inspection department. The other thing is, I think this is a wonderful idea. Whatever we can do to support our restaurants in this town, I fully support. I want to see them successful. I am concerned about the fact that this environment now will cause some restaurants to close and never open again. And I think that's really sad, and I hope that this will help a little bit. The only concern I had was that those businesses that were making investments in outdoor tables and tents and so forth, that this would not confer any vested right. And there's a lot of language in this resolution that satisfies those concerns on my part. So I think that this is a great thing we should do, and I'm fully in support of moving forward on this. Thank you.
You're muted, Kathleen.
I know, I'm unmuted again. Councilmember Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, I would just like to say this is an amazing idea to the administration and to all who were involved one way or another. Livonia and the greater area of Wayne County have hundreds of restaurants, whether it be large chain restaurants or family establishments. This is going to be a huge asset to some of these businesses. One of the questions I had thought of, whether this is Paul or for Mark, will this increase any sort of property taxes, this increase in usable space? I'm not sure how that necessarily go with that or not. I assume not.
You know, again, this is such a temporary thing. I don't think the assessment department is going to consider it anything other than an emergency situation and a temporary use. So it's not that we're adding on to the property. So I'm not a tax lawyer, but I cannot imagine that increasing anybody's tax. Since it's just a small period of time and it's not a permanent fixture. It's not like you're building on a deck for the purposes of this. This is designed not for the person who has the deck, but for the person who's going to put up a tent adjacent to their building.
That was a concern I had. As this space becomes usable, that space does not end up becoming a taxable space now to increase. Does this mean that restaurants that already have outdoor seating, does this expand their outdoor seating? So now that's an additional 25%?
Yeah, so that's a good question. As you know, many restaurants already have outdoor seating. And yes, this would allow them to expand it. The way the resolution reads, however, is that the total seating within the outdoor area would not exceed half of what is allowed under the governor's order. So under Paul's scenario, if a patio existed and already had 20 seats, they could add maybe 5 more seats. So it doesn't add to that an additional amount beyond that that limit that's placed in the resolution. And regarding the taxes, there will be no impact on taxes. The assessment of the properties, which occurs on December 31st of 2020 for taxes next year, that these improvements, any improvements made to these properties would be removed prior to that date and would therefore not be reflected on as part of their taxable value.
Okay, thank you. My last question, number 8 on the notes, touches on temporary fencing. I know when you talk about using outdoor space, sometimes through the planning phase, they'll have some sort of barriers to separate between cars in the parking lot and seating, whether that be bricks or whatever that may be. Do we see this being implemented by the city or no?
Well, the plan, paragraph 8 is specifically for those establishments that are going to have a liquor license to serve. We have a concern that if the alcohol is going to be served, that it actually be in a fenced in or closed in type of an area, so we can actually control where the sale and use of alcohol is going to be. The fencing issue on number 8 deals more with that. If it's a restaurant that doesn't serve alcohol, we're a little more wide open. You may have planters, you may have something. We want to make sure though that the plan is such that it provides for safety of the patrons and other people. So it's going to depend. The alcohol one is going to have to be a much more of an established fence or barrier than it would be if all you're selling is chicken wings, for instance, and you don't have the beer to go with it. So yeah, eight deals more with the Liquor Control Commission than it does with the other one. But again, those plans are going to have to be submitted to the, and I'm going to get it right, Mark, not the Planning Commission, but to the Inspection Department for their review of it. And we have all the conditions on there to take a look at that. And obviously they're going to work with them. If we see something that doesn't look safe, we're going to make suggestions on how to change it because we want these restaurants to be up and running. At the same time, we want to make sure that everybody is safe while they're doing it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your answers. And again, great job by the city and taking this sort of initiative to partner with our local restaurants. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Yes, Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I think this is a great idea. Kudos to all involved. Similar to my colleague, Ms. White, I did have some concerns in regards to how we would go forward throughout this. I do also agree with her that the resolution provides the answers for a lot of that, but through the planning process for these individual establishments, the application process, I would feel more comfortable if at some point they were to sign an acknowledgement or an acceptance of those terms, stating specifically that they understood that this was a short-term thing.
And this, you obviously you're an attorney, and so you recognize the importance of that. We're actually going to, as part of the permitting process, have them sign off on the resolution where it indicates right on there that they have no vested rights in this, and there's no conforming use status on it. We are planning on signing that because we don't want to hear later on that they relied upon this for the future.
Perfect. Great job. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Toy.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I think this, is a great idea. Other cities are doing it across the country, and it's a time that we need to pay attention to these small businesses and expedite as quickly as possible in a safe manner, has been described. However, we can help not only our restaurants, but any other small businesses. The most important thing, as we all know, is that they stay in business and they're paying their taxes and that they're employing people out of our community as well. So anything we can do to guide them through that is most welcome. And I think we need to look across our country to see how others are handling it. There's a whole campaign going about shop local, and we need to begin to merge. And I know we have a lot to do because we got to open City Hall and all those things we're doing, but the small business is a backbone of our community, and we have got to pay attention to that. I can't stress that enough. That and mental health, I'm very concerned about as it relates to our community. And and I don't mean to mix the two, maybe the bar will help, I don't know. But anyhow, that's just a joke, of course. But whatever we can do to expedite in a timely manner that they can get up and running, that's why I support this wholeheartedly. And thank you, Madam President, and to the mayor and her staff for also following others in making this certain for our local businesses. So let's shop local and let's make sure when those do get open that we all go and support right here in our own city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Toy. Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President. Kind of the same thing Councilwoman Toy just brought up is, and maybe this is for, through the chair to Mr. Tormina, is can businesses, if this passes, can businesses start tomorrow, submitting an application to this or whenever? Obviously, do you have a timeline? It's a great idea. It's innovative. But the delivery is going to be huge, and anything obviously through social media. A lot of us have a big following on our Facebook and Instagram and all that. Whatever we do to support that, I would like to see that. I know obviously the mayor and her team will probably have some kind of a news burst through every avenue we have, but this is a great idea to not get out there. I want to make sure, even if I could spend time on the phones calling these businesses, letting them know that you can submit your application to the inspection department and get them the information. I think that's key.
So again, this resolution is tied to the governor's orders whenever those would take effect, allowing for restaurants to reopen and whatever that looks like. In terms of the acceptance of applications, we had a discussion today with the inspection department, and should this resolution pass, it is our intention to get the information out on the website as soon as possible and to accept applications in anticipation of an order that would allow dining to resume. So we intend to take in applications to get the ball rolling, so to speak, right away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mark. Council Vice President Barr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I have two questions. One through the chair to Paul, probably is the most appropriate one. If something were to happen between now and October 31st, where restaurants were given leeway to open completely, does this policy go away, or does it still stay in effect?
This policy is tied to the executive orders and the executive and the governor having the power to do it. As you know, I'm going to stay out of the politics of it. As council is aware, the legislature, or a portion of the legislature, has filed a lawsuit against the governor saying that she's exceeding her powers. Should those powers, should they be struck down by, say, by the Michigan Supreme Court, and the orders are no longer in effect, and we're back to business as normal, there'd be no reason to have this because it's tied to the governor's executive orders. So if there are no executive orders, we don't have a need for this, and then we go back to the old ways of doing business. If that
So that means if we pass this and then a restaurant makes a move to have the outdoor seating that we've talked about, and then what the scenario you just talked about occurs, or some other scenario that allows them to go back to business as usual, then they would have to pull back on the outdoor seating, right?
I see three scenarios. The first one is that the governor's executive order stands and it's at, for instance, the 50%, and then we have this and it goes. Number two, much less likely, the governor decides tomorrow that we don't have a COVID problem and she receives all of her executive orders, and then we're back, then this wouldn't apply. Or number three, the courts strike down the governor's executive orders, then this would not apply. So this only applies if the governor's orders are enough and lawful.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, I don't think this is likely, frankly, but it's plausible that, say, things proceed as we expect them to proceed as far as restaurants being allowed 50% or whatever. But then we get to September and everybody's given the green light to go back to normal. I don't think that's likely, but it's plausible. Do these restaurants continue to get the extra outdoor seating until October 31st, or do they stop that day?
The way, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, the way we drafted this is in anticipation of and consistent with the governor's orders. Okay. So if there are no orders, we don't have a need for this. Now, that's not to say that council couldn't decide to extend it. Say if the governor's orders are up September 1st, council could, for instance, say, you know what, we're going to extend it until October 31st, but that's a different issue. As of now, this is tied to the governor's orders.
Okay, thank you. My second question also for Paul is, and I'll reiterate what I've heard from others. The first time I saw this, I was delighted because I think it's an excellent move for us, for a lot of businesses in our city. And it's a unique solution to unique times. That being said, was there any consideration taken for businesses who have been expressly denied by city council in the past for outdoor seating? And those conditions under which they may have been denied are still there, COVID or not COVID. Would they be included in this, or would we, or would there be an opportunity for us to express that they would be exempted from this?
Just because a restaurant was denied before doesn't mean that they're denied today, because it may not be the same seating capacity. It may not be or the same situation we're dealing with. There's still a permitting process in this. So we're going to look at the size of the establishment, the proximity to the business, how it's laid out, those kind of factors. The other factors, when a business was denied before, we don't really know what those factors were. So we're at this just simply from a perspective of, does it fit the plan that we have today as opposed to the plan that we may have had a couple councils ago? So.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Boy.
Thank you. If I may, I was on that council on one of those such seating arrangements, and I remember distinctly that many of us voted for that operation because we didn't want to allow outdoor seating on that because of, how can I put this in a nice, gentle, but yet way so that you understand? There was some question of appearances and dress and being close to different shopping centers, etc. And those of us that voted on that, Mr. Bernier and others, we voted for that in regards to the fact that it wasn't going to have outdoor seating. And not to cite one establishment in the city, but I would see us go back on our word on that, because residents had appeared and everything else. So that troubles me if we're going to open, you know, that kind of venue of things. Legally or not legally, I'm not sure how that pertains.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I have, and I talked to a couple members of council before on this, I have concerns about us telling everybody it's okay, but we don't like a particular business. I have problems in the short run that I think we're opening ourselves up to potential problems because we are now talking about content of, as you say, the attire rather than necessarily what is good for the businesses. I think we may be opening ourselves up to potential problems that we don't want to if we are making our decisions based on that.
Madam President, if I could continue, is there?
Go ahead, Councilmember Toy, then I have a question I want to ask.
Certainly. Is there any wiggle room as we look at this? I'm reaching back to think, you know, how I want to explore that a little bit, Madam Chair. I made the motion. I don't want to withdraw the motion, but I certainly would like to investigate this just a bit further as well. I think it's important. I know what our attorney's saying, but I also think there might be some wiggle room somewhere to take a look at a few things. That was a very hot issue in this community. Very, very, and I don't want to go back on my word. I'll tell you right now, I don't want to go back on my word. Because there was some very, very strong feelings on that. And those of you that were here sitting, I think there's only a few of us that were on the council at that time. I think that Jim Jolly was on and a few others. But, you know, that was a very hot issue and very concerning to a lot of folks in this community. And I would hate to open that up again. But thank you. I'll get off that soapbox at this point.
So I'd like to ask a question. Paul, I think it's really directed to both of you. And I understand both the legal concerns and the practical concerns. And I don't see that it's feasible to say, this is the process if you've never been denied, but if you've been denied, it's a different process, right? Again, to your point, anytime we're singling out what is really one business, it creates a potential legal problem for us. If we said, okay, a business has been denied for reasons that had nothing to do with, you know, seating or anything else, it had to do with concerns from residents. If we went ahead and they got this under this circumstance, right, and then there's an outcry from the community, what remedy, if any, do we have?
an outcry from the, I have to ask the question, outcry of the community about what? About if it's,
You told us that when we came to Target, we weren't going to see waitresses dressed like they dress at this business, serving people sitting outside. And I just drove to Target and I saw, and again, and there were 2 times this came to council. One was the approval for the business, and that was in 2015. And then it came back to council in, I think, 17 for, they reopened or they came forward with a new request for outdoor seating area. And I remember a lot of discussion and a lot of people came, and spoke in audience communication, right? They didn't want to see these waitresses dressed this way, serving people outside when they were going to Target. So what remedy, if any, is there to any of these? If any restaurant right now that doesn't currently have outdoor seating and the waitresses dress in a way that offends people in the community, right? We'll hear about it. What remedy, if any, do we have?
if they're not violating any ordinance or state law or MLCC regulation, we would have none. If they violate if they don't comply with the terms of their permit, dealing with the size, location, the various things, if they violate any ordinance or law or MLCC regulation, then we, as part of the resolution, we can immediately revoke their permit. But because we don't like the way the state staff is dressed, wouldn't necessarily be one of those reasons.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Bernier. Anyone else from the council? Mr. Barr, Vice President
Just
Barr.
one follow-up question to that. Paul, I understand your concern about not singling out a business. Haven't, however, regardless of what the criteria that was used at the time, I'm not looking to rehash all that here. It was 2015, by the way, when all this happened. At this point, there's already things, they've already been told you can't have a patio for whatever reasons that was. So are we really singling it out if we just say that we're going to continue to honor that even in spite of this? I mean, isn't that singling out? I don't think it was a singling out. There were reasons given for it. Those reasons still apply now, don't they?
They may
I'm
apply.
clumsily asking, I'm sorry.
They may apply now, but it is a different outdoor seating than we had before, because it is restricted to 50% of what the indoor capacity is, the allowable indoor capacity. So it is a different standard than, and I wasn't here when the council voted on it before, but I don't think the sole reason was the attire of the people that were dressed. That may have been the reason some people voted that way or not voted that way, but I hesitate to think that was the sole reason given for turning down the permit before. And so.
Well, and that's why I'm asking the question, because I agree with you. I don't think that was the sole reason, and not having the resolution in front of me, I don't remember what those reasons were. But the fact of the matter is, for whatever reason, we had a business that asked for outdoor seating, and that was denied. And as Councilwoman Toy correctly said, it was later, it was after that denial that it came back again through Planning Commission and City Council, without the patio. And then it was approved. It just, again, I'm not an attorney, but it seems to me that whatever the rationale for that rationale is already on the books, and it would be understandable that would continue even under the scenario here.
Before anything else, Vice President Barr?
I'm all set, thanks.
Before I go to Councilmember Jolly, again, it came back. The request for outdoor seating came back explicitly to the council, and I think it was 2017. So the approval was given for Twin Peaks to open without outdoor seating. and then it came back. I believe the issue came back to council. I thought, Mark, am I wrong? I thought I remembered it coming back to council explicitly asking for an outdoor repair.
I'd have to go back and take a look at the record. I think landscaping may have been one of the issues.
Okay.
Brought the item back for your review after the initial outdoor patio was rejected. That's my recollection. And they made the changes to the building. So there was the initial waiver use request to add the outdoor seating, and then a subsequent petition involving the exterior modifications without the patio.
Okay. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. To be honest with you, I think I'd inadvertently raised my hand.
I'm sorry.
I would just say in this case, I trust our legal counsel to provide the right direction. I think the overall sentiment of what we're trying to accomplish is correct. And, I would say if we're singling out any business going forward, if we say everybody can do it except these people, that's a problem right off the bat, but I trust our legal counsel to deal with that. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Toy.
Well, then perhaps we better look at our ordinances as it pertains to the restaurants. I can think of others in town that we're not only on that manner, yes, we're looking at, but other establishments in town in regards to dress, behaviors that go on within those structures. I think there's protocol and there's ordinances within this city that dictate to them. I remember we were having, one of the establishments was having bikini shows at one point. I don't know, maybe White remembers this because you were, I think, on the city attorney staff when Abraham Lincoln was shot. No, but in all seriousness, we had that kind of situation, and we had to go in and we had to make sure that it was a little bit more tasteful, if you will. Some people's minds might have been tasteful, I don't know, but you understand what I'm saying to you? So perhaps we need to review some of those in time. I think one of us chair that committee on local ordinances and laws as it pertains to that as well. So just a suggestion.
Kathleen, you're muted.
Thank you, sorry. Anyone else? No one else from council wishes to speak. I'll go to the audience. This time, if anyone from the audience would like to address the council on this item, now is your opportunity to do so. Please use the raise your hand button, and I believe if you're on the phone, you can press #9 to virtually raise your hand if you're just calling in and you're not actually on if you're not on the Zoom video call. All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and take the vote, which is approving to approve the permitting of temporary outdoor dining areas during the COVID-19 crisis through the end of October, through October 31st, 2020, which is when the state guidelines expire, or the governor's EO expires regarding this issue. All right, would the clerk please take the vote?
Yes, just for a matter of clarification, who moved this?
Toy?
Laura Toy and Rob Donovan, correct? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Jolly,
Aye.
Councilmember Toy,
Aye.
Vice President Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovan,
Aye.
President McIntyre.
Aye. And the motion carries. So we have approved the outdoor temporary dining areas and the change to the ordinance that it will now come to the planning department for review and approval or denial based on planning, the input from planning and inspection and public safety and anyone else, any other departments that are relevant for any particular applications. All right, thank you, and thank you again to Mr. Bernier, Mr. Taramina, and the mayor's office for all the work in this. And I think this is just a great thing, moving our community forward and looking to support our business community. So thank you. With that, I'll go back to the audience. Would anyone from the audience like to address the council on any item that was not discussed during tonight's meeting? And before I call for the for a motion to adjourn, I missed one very very important and hardworking department head, and I missed him because he's right there in front of me and in front of us, and that's Casey O'Neill, our Director of Information Technology, Information Services. So sorry about that, Casey. It's one of those things, you know, can't see the forest for the trees. Anyway, at this point, I would entertain. So moved by Toy.
Support.
Support from, was that Barr?
McCullough.
McCullough, I'm sorry. And I think we can safely show 7 on that. We are adjourned. We'll reconvene at 8:40 for this evening's study meeting. Thank you very much.